From the very first moment, something felt disturbingly off inside the quiet motorcycle workshop sitting on the edge of a forgotten American town. The early morning sun pushed its way through the half-open garage door, lighting up the floating dust like tiny ghosts drifting between wrenches, helmets, and chrome. The air carried the smell of oil, metal, and leather, familiar, comforting, ordinary. But that morning, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Too heavy. Thick enough to settle in your lungs. And then it shattered. Not from an engine roar, not from a slammed toolbox, not from a biker yelling across the room. But from a voice. A small, trembling voice, so fragile it sliced through the garage like broken glass. Even the toughest biker in the county froze mid-step, mid-breath, mid-heartbeat. Because the little girl sitting on the edge of the workbench, knees trembling, fists gripping her pink floral dress, whispered something no one inside that garage had ever expected to hear. I can't close my legs. Her words came out like tiny shards of pain, and the entire workshop fell dead silent. 3 hardened men who'd survived fights, crashes, surgeries, and scars suddenly felt powerless. Her name was Lily Carter. 7 years old. Pale cheeks streaked with tears. Her stuffed rabbit dragged across the floor behind her like a wounded shadow. She had wandered in moments earlier, limping, wobbling, half falling as she pushed through the garage door left wide open for the cool morning air. Standing in front of her was Ray Donovan, broad-shouldered, storm-gray hair, tattoos climbing up both arms like stories carved into his skin. The kind of man most people avoided. But right now, all that toughness had evaporated. He knelt down slowly, like he was approaching a wild, injured creature. "Hey, sweetheart," he whispered, voice cracking. "You're safe. You're okay. What happened?" He didn't dare touch her. His hands hovered in the air, shaking. Ray Donovan, who once broke a man's jaw with one punch, was terrified of hurting a child with a single finger. Behind him stood Mason Briggs and Kel Walker, both frozen stiff. They weren't breathing, they were barely blinking. Because Lily's knees were swollen, red, trembling so violently that even trying to bring them together made her whimper. Something was wrong. Something far beyond a scraped knee or a playground fall. Ray's heart pounded against his ribs, fury and fear mixing into something primal. He gently wiped her tears, his thick fingers shaking as if they no longer belonged to him. "What happened, sweetheart?" he tried again. Lily didn't speak. She lifted one trembling hand and pointed toward the road she came from. A long, lonely stretch of asphalt disappearing past town lines. Ray followed her gaze, his jaw clenching so hard his teeth ached. Someone had hurt her. Someone had chased her. Someone had made this little girl run until her legs couldn't even close from pain. And Ray Donovan was not the kind of man to let that slide. But first, she needed help. "No one's touching her," Ray muttered quietly to Mason and Kel. "No one. We protect her. Understand?" They nodded without hesitation. The Iron Serpents didn't swear loyalty often. But when they did, they meant it. Mason rushed for the first aid kit. Kel slammed down the garage door to keep out prying eyes. Ray wrapped his leather vest around Lily, lifting her gently, so gently it looked unnatural for a man his size, and held her to his chest. She cried into his shirt, sobbing so hard her entire body shook. "Shoo. I got you. I got you," Ray whispered, though his voice shook as hard as hers. They rushed her to Ray's truck. The bikers walked around her like bodyguards escorting royalty, not to show off, but to shield her from a world that suddenly felt dangerous. The small-town clinic wasn't prepared for something like this. They treated sprained wrists, minor crashes, the usual. But when Ray burst through the doors carrying Lily, everything shifted. Doctors came running. Nurses gasped. Questions flew. Papers fell. And Ray didn't leave her side. Not for a second. Not for a breath. When the doctor finally came out hours later, his face was exhausted. "She's stable," he said. "A severe sprain, intense muscle strain, probably from running in panic. Bruised knees. Exhausted. Dehydrated." Ray closed his eyes, relief hitting him like a punch. "She's safe," the doctor added. "Whatever she ran from, she escaped." But safety wasn't enough. Not to Ray. Because children shouldn't know this kind of fear. They shouldn't run alone. They shouldn't cry until their legs give out. Ray walked to Lily's room and found her asleep, clutching his leather vest like a shield. For the first time in 20 years, Donovan cried. The iron serpents didn't return to their routines after that. They didn't shrug and say, "Kids wander." They didn't forget the little girl who limped into their lives. They rotated shifts at the clinic, making sure she was never alone. Mason brought coloring books. Kel tucked a blanket around her shoulders. Ray, who pretended he wasn't soft, carved her a little wooden motorcycle. When Lily finally woke up enough to talk, she whispered pieces of the story. She'd been playing in her yard. Someone grabbed her arm. She didn't know who. She didn't know why. She just ran. Ran until she couldn't. Ran until her knees collapsed beneath her. Ran until she saw the open garage door. Ray stared at the floor, fists clenched, tattoos flexing with rage. "We'll find whoever did this," Mason growled. Ray didn't answer. He didn't need to. Everyone knew his promise was sealed. Hours later, they found Lily's mother, Emma Carter, working her second shift, unaware her daughter had wandered off. When she saw Lily curled in the hospital bed, she fell to her knees, sobbing. Ray awkwardly helped her up. "She's safe. We got her." Emma stared at the three bikers standing around her daughter like angels wearing leather and ink. Why would you do this?" she whispered. Ray looked at Lily, small and fragile under white sheets. "Because sometimes," he said quietly, "the world needs men people are scared of, to protect the ones who can't protect themselves." Word spread fast. The entire town heard. First whispers. Then shock. Then awe. The biker garage everyone warned their kids about, had become a sanctuary. The men everyone judged turned out to be the ones who ran toward danger, not away from it. Ray didn't want praise. He didn't want attention. He just wanted Lily to smile again. And she did. Slowly. Day by day. She healed. Her knees stopped trembling. Her legs grew strong again. She played. She laughed. She ran, not in fear, but in freedom. Ray visited often. Sometimes with gifts. Sometimes with popcorn. Sometimes just to sit on the porch and watch her draw. One afternoon months later, Lily sprinted across the yard, legs steady, hair flying behind her like a banner. Ray watched, arms crossed, pride softening his rugged features. "You're fast now," he teased. She grinned. "You made me brave." Ray looked away before she saw the emotion in his eyes. The town that once judged him. Now they waved when he passed. Brought him pies. Invited him to barbecues. Trusted him. And Lily? She never forgot the moment the world felt too big, too dark, too cold. And the roughest-looking man in town became the light that saved her. Some people said the iron serpents changed after that day. But the truth? They didn't change. People just finally saw who they really were. Protectors. Guardians. A brotherhood that stood between innocence and danger. And if you ask Lily what happened that morning, she'll tell you one thing. "I ran into the scariest place in town, and found the safest people in the world."